SlapTail Squad, assemble.
All right, well, welcome, members of the SlapTail Nation. This is the SlapTail Squad, and I'm the Beaveman, and I am in my beaver lodge or den or whatever you want to call it here in Michigan. And with me today is my number one, the Ronz.
Thank you. Hello. So we went from the Renegade Studio to the Underground Studio to now a Beaver Lodge. We are going from, military to retired military or vet to now we belong to sort of like the a moose or elk lodge, right? So now we're the disingenuine people who sit around drinking beer and tell you back in my day routine, huh?
I think that sounds reasonable.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
Okay. And today we're, of course, we are remotely podcasting. The Ronz is in his home. I'm in my home. And we are using Skype. Skype for, what do they call it? Skype for content or content for Skype or content users or something or other.
Sounds good to me.
So if you're remotely podcasting and you're still messing with different types of platforms, if you want to use one, Skype's a pretty good one to use. At least with this one, we can see each other. If you want to, you can also use it and you can, it will save the video also. So if you wanted to post video, you could do that as well. I don't know how many people go out there and go to YouTube to listen to people's podcasts and actually want to see them podcasting or posting. It looks like the Ronz, you could see him walking around in what appears to be his pajamas.
Well, I just woke up about 20 minutes ago because I was up all night doing things. And my chair tends to squeak a lot. And I noticed that when we were doing the podcast with RJ last week.
Oh, yeah.
We would hear him move around. And I'm like, okay, what's the best way to not have anything squeak is to move out my chair, right? So that's what you see me doing. So I'm standing here at my desk.
You're standing. You don't have another chair?
Not that one that squeaks. I've got this one plastic thing. I guess I can use. I can do the old college thing and make use of what I have.
Yeah, I don't think you want to stand for. Did you really want to stand for an hour and do a podcast?
Doesn't bother me one way or another.
I guess it wouldn't be bad. You might get animated telling a story, and that would be fun for me to watch. I guess. That's a pretty crazy T-shirt you're wearing. What's that? Some sort of a.
Oh, it's one of my comic shirts. It's actually Carrie's X-Men shirt. When we used to partake and buy a lot of comics or graphic novels, or depending on how you ask. So she is a big X-Men. Batgirl, any superhero, female superhero, she is a big fan of, and I supported that up until you realize half your paycheck was going for buying comics.
Right. It can get pretty expensive.
It can. Then you have to have the action figures, the accessories, the trading cards, all that fun stuff. And once again, that could be rather expensive. And I say, at some point, how it ended us buying them is not through any volition of our own, is that the place that we used to buy them just stopped selling them. So they were not going to sell them anymore. They strictly went to another format in their business plan. And we said, okay. And Carrie was actually great friends with them. They were alumni of her college. So with that said, I'm like, okay. So we stopped buying comics.
Oh, that's bizarre to just go all of a sudden say I'm not going to sell comics anymore. Well, I bet you probably just don't make that much money off of selling comics. Who knows? You got to have a good fan base, I suppose.
Well, they had another business going, too. They were sports memorabilia, gold and silver jewelry, stuff like that. One thing I really liked about this place is it was small. It was just really good. So I suppose you're right. They weren't making that much money, and they decided to, okay, we're going to call it quits. So it's not like all of a sudden they said, okay, your comics aren't available. They actually gave you a countdown and said, okay, in a month or a week, in a month we're going to quit. selling comics and everything. So they did have a going out of sale all their comics, and that was kind of a bummer because it was really a nice little small place to go to. And when they quit, it's like, okay, bummer.
Probably didn't smell like a musty basement either, like a couple of the local comic shops.
There was one Terry was did not want to go into just because it looked like the typical geeks, nerds, you know, hadn't showered, hadn't seen a woman, and they didn't know how to react. That was pretty.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind going in there. I didn't, but she did.
Yeah. Plus, I can also probably understand if I have a picture in my mind of a location that you could be talking about, and if you're selling something as minimal as comics that doesn't bring that much money in, but your regular product does bring a lot of money in, and probably brings in certain people and other people you probably don't want loitering in that shop. Not saying you don't want you guys loitering, but there's probably people that you don't want loitering in that shop who are going to spend $4 when somebody could come in that shop and easily drop a couple $1,000s pretty quickly.
That's true too. The one thing about that place was they had some great resales. I mean, if you needed some old comic books, you could go in there and find them that way. And they were on sale. I think I found what was it? An original Star Wars Burger King or Burger Chef poster for $0.25. Yeah, it was Burger King, I think. And that was amazing. It was, 1977?
Mm-hmm.
Only had a little bit of a corner missing. And actually, I wound up trading it for a Catwoman doll, Catwoman figure, by the way, for Terry. And the guy says, "Why do I want this?" I said, "Think about it. They're about to reissue the Star Wars movie the first time. That poster in itself is going to go up in value. Even though it's got a little bit of a corner missing, you get that." And he's like, "Hey, you're right." And so I traded that for Carrie. Well, no, I traded the. Yeah, I traded something for Carrie. I figured pretty much.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, at least that's posable, right? You can put it however you want, and it will stay in that way. That'll stay in that position for a long time. You can't necessarily do that with your wife. Once she gets bored, she may not let you pose her in the first place, but when she gets bored, she's probably just not going to stay in that same position for very long.
I totally agree, but this one is still in its package, so that's the way it is. Right?
Yeah, I think when we talk about Burger King and Burger Chef, I think it's only been a few years now that we finally don't have the Star Wars glasses at my parents' house. They've probably all broken by now or are super faded out that you can't tell what they were anymore. But we did have them for a really long time. I had a bunch of them. I think that was our primary glass for a really long time. Not even from like a collector's perspective, just that we had so many of those and we didn't use any other glasses. We just used those.
That kind of reminds me growing up when you turned to old jelly jars or whatever have you into drinking mugs. In fact, if you can see, I love this. This is a mason jar. There it is. And the top is, I bought this at a coffee place here, turns it into a sippy cup or a cup to drink coffee out of.
A sippy cup. Yeah, good use of the mason jar. Good use of the mason jar. Well, yeah, they've got handles on mason jars too. It was funny. You also mentioned Burger Chef. Do you think Burger Chef was beyond the Midwest, or was it all over the whole country?
I'm not really sure.
Or did we just have it here locally? I wonder. I don't know.
I'm not really sure about that. It's just growing up, you always expect these restaurants to be around, and they're never around when you got older.
That restaurant has to have been gone for over 30 years.
Yeah, punch it up.
It's been gone for a while. I can remember pretty much exactly where it was in Battle Creek. If I remember correctly, it was in front of the bowling alley. Not too far from the college. I think actually Arby's is where Burger Chef used to be. Of course, if you're listening to this on the West Coast, which is where the majority of our listeners are, if you guys have ever had a Burger Chef, if you're old like Ronz and I, and you remember Burger Chef, send us a message and say, hey, yeah, we had it out here. You never know. You always wonder about those things. For example, the big grocery chain here in Michigan is Meijer, And of course, Meijer isn't everywhere. It's spread throughout the Midwest a little bit, but it did start in Michigan. That's where it's from. So if you go down south, where I was stationed at Fort Bragg, and you're like looking around for a Meijer, there isn't one. You've got a D&W or the Spartan stores, the occasional Piggly Wiggly, that sort of thing. This is a really riveting episode of the SlapTail Squad where we're talking about Burger Chef. What information do you have on the Burger Chef there, Ronz?
Well, it was started in began operation in 1954, and after that it just shut down. But you're right. Let's get on to today's podcast of the Wild Karens.
Well, we didn't even get to talk about Ritzy, but it's still out there. There's still one in Battle Creek. There's still Ritzy in Battle Creek.
It's, you know what, one restaurant that I really wish they'd bring back, and they do have one in Sturgis called Hot Now. I do miss that, right? Because they had cheap cheeseburgers.
Yeah, for like 69 cents.
Yeah. When Carrie was in college, that's one of the places I'd like to hit. Now they've got one, and to me, it's rather expensive to go down there and just have a cheeseburger.
Yeah, just for 59 cents. It's still better than paying $1 for White Castle.
Well, I think they've inflated the prices a little bit. They've adjusted for inflation and everything, but it's still one of those things where you can still see the remnants of their their foundation, where they turned them into different other places. Like one was a coffee place, drive-through coffee place. Now it's also, I think they turned them into Checkers.
Right. The building setup was pretty smart because it's a small building set up specifically for drive-through without a sit-in. So yeah, it would fit perfectly with the Checkers idea or a drive-through coffee place. You see a lot of those when I was in Seattle. When I was in Seattle, there were so many coffee places. I mean, really good coffee places, but a lot of them were set up like that, like the little drive-through small building, the other one was Burger Express. So Burger Express, Hot Now, and small building. So you're not sitting in there. You just drive through, get your stuff, and you're gone. I spent the time that I was in Seattle, I tried as many coffees as I could, and you know what the worst one was that I tried?
What's that?
Starbucks.
Really? I think,
in my opinion, Starbucks is still the worst highly promoted coffee. Tastes like burnt coffee to me. I'm a Big B fan. Big B's my coffee. But of course, that is not throughout the whole country either.
I like European coffee. It was a lot stronger when I came back to the States and I had coffee. I just couldn't believe how weak it was. But when you go over there, I don't know, maybe it was roasted different and everything, but their coffee over there is definitely a lot stronger, a lot more flavorful.
Well, I guess that helps us segue into a quick commercial for coffee. Say, Ronz, does that mean that you like coffee?
I do like coffee. In fact, if you've noticed on camera, for our viewers and listeners who can't see us, I am drinking coffee right now.
Well, I also like coffee, but I like my coffee strong, just like the Ronz said. If you like a good, strong cup of coffee, well, there's not a lot of those out there, in my opinion. Or maybe it's just that my taste buds have changed over the years, and I really just like a good, strong cup of coffee. If I can see through my coffee, it's a bad thing. But what else is important is to support veterans out there. And so that brings us to our coffee advertisement of the podcast for Scars and Stripes Coffee. That's Scars, not Stars. It's Scars and Stripes Coffee. And one of the supporters of our show is Carrie Beavers. And so if you'd like to support Carrie, who's also a veteran, she was a trained Army medic, you can go to ss.coffee/Beavers, and that will take you directly to her page for Scars and Stripes Coffee, and she'll get credit for any purchases that you make for coffee. Now, does that mean that she'll give you a discount because you listen to our podcast? Probably not, because we don't get paid for this advertisement. We don't get paid for this advertisement. And also, though, this is probably a good opportunity let me read their mission statement. We empower veterans to build their own business using our e-commerce platform. When you buy coffee from Scars and Stripes, you are buying from a veteran, and your purchase directly impacts the men and women who have served our country. I actually don't know if that's their mission statement. It's just on their page. But you can go on there and you can click on it and see their mission. And, of course, the big thing is for us to try to prevent veteran suicide. So we applaud their efforts. Go ahead, go there, go to her page, and buy some coffee and enjoy coffee because you know what? Coffee's good for you. No, that's not true. It's really not good for you, but it makes you happy.
And I'll put a link on our Facebook page so they can go straight to that if they want to. I thought I did. I was looking. I'm pulling up our Facebook page now. I thought I put one on there, but apparently it's gone away for a second. So I will make sure I put one on there, right? And
he's getting it figured out. And also, we want to thank you guys for visiting our, what do you call that? Our webpage.
Our webpage, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for visiting our webpage. The Ronz is doing a really good job. And let us also say that this is not his professional job. This is not what he does for a living. But he's doing a damn fine job. And I've seen way worse web pages than ours, by God. You go to some people's web pages, and there's nothing on them. I'll give you an example. I'm not going to bash on this. I'm not going to bash on this business. But I went to this local business's webpage, and it's a facility that sells firearms. I wanted to see if there was any. I'm looking for a particular firearm.
What type are you looking for?
I'm looking for a Smith & Wesson 9mm, the M&P style, but I want the one that is the full size, the 5-inch. That I think it holds 17 rounds. I have the portable carry one, so I've got the M&P Shield 9mm. It carries 7 rounds. So I'm looking for the full size. Anyway, so I go to their website. It shows their hours of operation. It shows, a little brief blip, but then it has links on it. So you click on it to see firearms. That link does nothing. All it does is take you to a page that lists like some names on it of different locations, but when you click on them, it goes nowhere. So if you're going to have a web page, you probably should develop it a little bit. And it's not like this has been, it's not like it's one of those, how they used to pop up the little sign that says website under construction. It doesn't do that at all. It's nothing. So why have a web page if it doesn't have shit on it? I ask you, Ronz, why have a web page that doesn't have shit on it?
Well,
it's not rhetorical. I'm asking you a question. It's not rhetorical.
Okay, so it's not rhetorical. I can't answer your question if it's not rhetorical.
So it's not rhetorical. Yeah, I have no answer for that because I'm not those people and I don't know. Bottom line is our website does have stuff on it thanks to the Ronz. It's got our episodes on there. It's got blog posts on there. It's got our profiles on there. It's got some cool pictures on there. And you know what? It's just going to keep growing because the Ron's a fanatical person. It's an amazing website. It's truly amazing. It's really terrific.
Thank you. And, well, it wouldn't be possible without you and our listeners and our sponsors like Stars and Stripe Coffee. I feel like
who doesn't pay us? Who doesn't pay us? But we still. Also, it's really important to note too that for our listeners here that are around the world and national, international, if you will, and local, that if you have anything that you want us to advertise, we're more than happy to advertise also for free. Until we become big, and then you might have to pay us some money, or just send us some free shit like alcohol, tobacco, firearms. Well, that might not be legal about the firearms and the tobacco. I don't know. Definitely send us alcohol though. I'll share it with the Ronz.
Well,
or we can give it as gifts.
Yeah, I think we'll have to reach out to that vodka distillery out west and see if we can get anything. I haven't sent out an email, but I think I will. What was it?
SlapTail vodka. SlapTail vodka. I think that's Oregon. Pretty sure that's in Oregon. So if we have any listeners in Oregon, if you know of that distillery or that manufacturer, just send us a message also so we can reach out to them. That'd be fun. So that brings us to our topic then, right there, Ronz. Have you had some opportunities to get out there and be socially awkward?
I actually went out shopping the other day with Carrie, and the one thing I thought was, as I'm going in, I got to see what she saw, and I also.
You stooped down. Stooped down about a foot. You walked on your knees.
For a woman who is 5 foot, people go because she's a second-degree black belt, right? And they go, "Oh, you're afraid of her." I said, "Not really. I trained her to fight, but I am not really afraid of her. I am. And in the context, I'll explain why. It's because I said I'm afraid of her friends. They're like, what? I'm afraid of her friend. She knows all these black belts, different styles, and all she has to do is whisper the wrong thing into their ear, and I'll just hear, Ronz, come here. I want to talk to you for a second. Or, hey, can you throw a punch at me so I can do this technique? So I'm always like, I'm wondering one day I'm just going to get flipped out of nowhere or punched out of nowhere, like, and someone's going to say, you know why? And I'm going to look over at Gary and I'm going to have to say, I'm sorry for whatever I may have done. That's the way it's going to be. And speaking of which, because our dojo is a nonprofit, Carrie had mentioned something as a fundraiser. And I thought it was great that she goes, how about you pay $10 and you spar a black belt? Right, for a little fundraiser, because in this quarantine environment that we've been shut down, I said that sounds like a great idea. But do you know how many black people are going to line up to try and kick my ass? I said, John, Ricky, Andy, they're all going to pay their money just to take me out.
I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's true. You really think that would happen? I feel like that you would not be the one that they would pick to pick up on.
You know what? I think it would be. Right?
Really?
Well, not Ricky.
Why do you think so? Why do you think so? Do you think that you're this obnoxious persona in the dojo that everybody wants to beat on?
No, I never said I was obnoxious. I just said, it's like, let's fool around. I mean, there are a few people that would love to spar the black belts, right? And just because. And and if you go a little tougher or a little rougher, that'd be great. And we're not talking that, if a white belt comes in and wants to spar us, we wipe the floor with him going, okay, that's your lesson. No, that's not it.
No.
Right? We'll let them win, or we'll let them get a couple of good hits, or we'll say, okay, well, that's good. But as you get higher and higher in rank, we all know this, that you play a little bit rougher. And how many times, I saw your test, and I thought that was a phenomenal test, by the way. Both times I got to watch the test, right? And you guys play rough to a point. And I thought that was great. So, like, we play rough at our level. And when you get to, who wouldn't want to pay money to play around a little bit rougher than they should? It's sort of like going to an amusement park. You don't go to an amusement park just to ride the merry-go-round. You go ride the roller coasters. Right? That's where I was going with this.
Well, I think that it wouldn't be. I don't disagree. I don't think it would be a bad fundraiser, but I would like to see it to have some very specific rules. I would like it to be done. One, I think that it should be done on the Aikido, Jiu-Jitsu, Judo side of the dojo because it's padded.
Okay,
I think
fair
that
enough.
there would have to be an area taped off. Very specifically, you can't go outside of this area, just like it is on on a tournament floor. And then I think that the participants doing it should have to wear pads, and that we can actually just judge it. Like, okay, we can do it by point sparring. That way, nobody gets hurt, and because always the worry that you have, in my opinion, if you do something like that, is somebody who wants to take stuff a little too far or do something a little bit obnoxious. Because if you did sparring, if you said, we're going to do it where you can fight a black belt. So you've got the karate black belts over here. And then you'd have people like, okay, well, you can fight this karate black belt as an example, but you can't use jiu-jitsu. You can't pick up the karate black belt and throw them on the ground. Or you can't do something like that. So if you're going to play, it's the same, because it's the same thing in tournament fighting, right? I don't go to tournaments and fight and use quote, jiu-jitsu. I don't throw somebody in a wrist lock and careen them across the floor or anything. I still fight by their rules. So I think that's pretty fair.
With that said, though, when we spar, right? Of course, we don't use pads. We're on the wooden floor. We use whatever technique works for us. Right? I've seen a few of us bring in different styles because we all know karate, right? It's sort of like jiu-jitsu, right? So how do you win the fight? It's not about I'm more of a badass than you. It's just I don't want to get hurt and I don't want to lose. So if you go locking up, right, hand to hand, right, and your hands get trapped, what do? I should say if you're too close. So how do you fight? Right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't say break. And for us, when we spar, we don't spar points. We spar for 3-minute rounds, right?
Right.
Or a 1-minute round or whatever it is. So you can't break away and say, okay, this is unfair. No, it's whatever you use. However, with that said, you can't go to I can't go to my belt level versus their belt level and expect them to fight at my level. It wouldn't be fair.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you're going to fight somebody who's like a white belt, it doesn't matter any belt. They don't have to. Just because you're a black belt doesn't mean you're good. Black belt means you're a good student. You know how to listen. That's all that means.
I don't even know how to do that.
Yeah, I don't even profess that. What am I? I'm a second degree black belt. That doesn't mean I know how to fight. I knew how to fight before I was a black belt. It just means that I'm a good student and I can pay attention to what I've been taught and I can teach other people. But again, yeah, if you're fighting somebody if you were going to spar for money, quote, to raise money for the dojo, and you have somebody who doesn't know how to fight at all, obviously you're not going to do a spinning back kick and launch, into their, solar plexus area. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I would just be careful. If it's
one of my brothers, I would. If it's one of my family members, I might.
Well,
that'd be fun.
Yeah,
I would have fun with that.
I don't know. I'm just saying that it's a fun idea, and I would totally do it. I think it would be fun. Just safety wise, hey, there's got to be a little bit of safety in mind, and because you don't want things to escalate and be stupid or whatever. But there's also something to be said for if people escalate and you quickly shut their escalation down, which is pretty easy to do.
I agree with that completely. I see it from your point of view where it's like it can get out of control, and if it gets out of control, I don't necessarily like the entire point sparring thing because it's like, what does that teach you anyway? It's like stop, restart, stop, and restart. I saw your test. I know for up for my test, it was just, oh man, they set me up good for sparring. They brought in 3 people, lightweight, speed and technique, and all technique. And I got my ass kicked every time. The lightweight I can handle. That wasn't a problem. I pretty much got that pretty much down. Then the speed and the technique came in, and I got my ass kicked and handed to me. And then I turned around and I was really tired, so they brought in the guy with the technique. And no matter what I threw, you could deflect. Right? It wasn't about speed at that point. It was about technique.
Yeah.
So they had all these 3 different levels of watching my ass get kicked. Right?
Yeah.
And,
I'm more of a practical fighter. If you have if you have like 3 people coming at you, we'll do this sometimes with ours, and they'll come. I'll run away. I'll just out cardio them. Like they'll come to try to get me, and I'm like, zip, gone. I'm like, yeah, fuck you. I'm out of here.
That makes sense.
Because you have to also look at it as a practical sense. I look at it as a practical sense too. I'm like, well, this isn't a tournament situation. I have 3 of you, or I'll plant a kick in one of their chests or their nuts, and I'll take off. I'm like, zip, zip, gone. Zip, like beep, beep, later, fuckers. And they're like chasing me around the mat, trying to get me. I'm like, fuck you.
I did. What I loved about your test, and one of the other black belts, I won't mention her name, but that was great, is the way you guys led up to your test was fantastic. And you guys had that black bag. I've never seen a black bag test before. And for our listeners out there, what a black bag is they bring out this black bag and they put it over your head. And now you have to fight your way around this ring. And you have to feel your way. And I thought that was controlled, by the way. I like that. And I thought it was phenomenal the way you and the female candidate black belt, by the way, she got a black belt. I was there for that. How she handled herself, because what was so fantastic about that test, her test, as well as yours, is that the approach and Sensei Keith, who was in charge, says, "Oh, I know you wanted to do this, but we want to see this." And I was like, "What?" And they pulled out the black bag, and I thought you guys did fantastic on that. I've never seen that done before.
Yeah, it's interesting. So tell us about your social interaction this week. I got you sidetracked because I asked if you were looking from a 5-foot person's perspective, but
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Well, the interaction I had this week was I was out in public and I was trying to be awkward, but my God, you guys are right. I am socially awkward.
yeah, don't even try. You're good without trying. Just be yourself.
I was not trying to be myself. I was trying to be polite. And as I'm walking around the store, I noticed that there's this couple talking back and forth. And I don't know what possessed me to intervene. I don't. And I said, "Oh, you must be looking for something." I said, "I think it's down this aisle." And I said, "You guys must be married, right?" It's like, you can tell because she's in charge. And they kind of smiled and went on. So we went about our shopping, and they were in the checkout lane. I said, "Oh." So, and I saw them in the checkout lane because we were in the checkout lane. I said, "Oh, so she's still in charge?" It's like, "Yeah." It's like, "How long have you guys been married?" And the guy turned around and says, "My sister." Oh, Mom. And I said, and this is how I doubled down on stupidity. I
Like,
turned
so how
around
long
and
you been married?
no, yeah. I said, "Hey, don't worry. I married my sister too." And Terry turned around and says, "What?" It's like I said, she goes, "I'm his wife." And I'm like, they don't need to know that right now. I said, John, everybody's right. I am socially awkward. I am just, I just don't know when to be quiet. And,
So
go ahead.
I like to retrace the steps whenever I hear about these situations with you. I think it's very important to retrace the
Very
steps.
important, yes.
With the caveat that I don't want you to change what you do. It's just I need to dive a little bit more into your brain to find out how it works because it's fun for me.
Of course, please.
Because as you know, we've said this before, you've known me for a while now. You know that I'm not an outgoing person. So I don't go up to people and talk to them. I just don't. It's one of those things.
Like I said, I mean, you even caught, when I said, "Hey, you don't even say goodbye to me at the dojo," and you actually made it a point at the end of my class when I'm done with my area, right? When they release us, to come up, shake my hand. "I am leaving now, Ron. You get right in my face." I'm like, and everybody looks around like, "What the hell was that all about? Did you piss off another dad?" And I'm like, "It's a long story, and I can tell it later."
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't like dealing with too many people.
Now, what kind of a... What's that?
I think you're an excellent trainer, though. I watch you train with the newbies on your side when I get a chance, and you are an excellent instructor. You really are. I haven't trained with you, but you managed to really make everybody feel comfortable when you train.
Oh, that's nice.
I've seen I've seen your white belts come up through the ranks, and you work with them one-on-one. You treat them with the utmost respect. You don't say, "Hey, there's the door," with the exception of one who we picked up from your class, and that's an entirely different story altogether.
Are they still with you guys?
Yeah. In fact,
okay.
he's a project when I train. He is a very good martial artist. Well, he is coming along. Kerry has had to teach him a couple lessons here and there. He's coming along really good. In fact, they told me when I had received, I think I said the story before, when I had received Shodan, that this was my penance, my kind of breaking in of training him. Ooh. And the first words out of this kid's mouth was, "I know 5 motions in karate already." And I smacked my lips. I thought, okay, this is going to be good. And
in 5 of them, are you striking the floor?
I really wish I had said that, but I didn't. I maintained my dad composure because they send him over to me. I usually get the new people that don't have too much of an attitude problem, but I have to discipline them. And they say, "Well, because you're a dad, you know how to handle kids. You can be firm, yet fair, and you can turn on the charm, but you can also turn on the discipline if you need to." I'm like, fair enough. And the kid really worked hard to get where he was going, really. And when he got to a certain rank, I said, "Okay, I'm done carrying you." This is all you. Let's get you going. And every time he tried to screw up or try to get over on somebody, I went to all the other black belts in their style, and I said, or anybody that would train him, I said, this is what he's going to try and do. Kind of watch out for it. If he tries that, reaffirm that you are in charge, not him. This is what you do. And okay, and Kerry actually had to teach him a lesson one day when he was not participating correctly. He was stiff arming. He was doing something, and Kerry walked up and said, "That's not how this technique is done." If I remember correctly, it's like right on me, and he threw a really stiff punch. And it's like, no, it's got to be a loose punch. No one ever throws a stiff punch. And if they do, then you take control, throw a loose punch or something like that. Right through another hard, stiff punch. So I think on the third time, Kerry did a circle block and grabbed his arm using what they call a technique, if I'm correct, called dragon claw, and grabbed his muscle. And the kid yelled, and Kerry said, "Are you going to play nice now?" It's like, this is why I'm afraid of my wife as well. I mean, I love you, hon, in case you're listening. But, yeah. So we picked up him from jiu-jitsu.
All right. Well, back to the mind of Ron.
Back to the mind.
Back to the mind of Ronz. As he's, in case no one knows this, Ronz is a martial artist and likes to mention martial arts quite frequently. I do feel bad for him because he doesn't get to play in his dojo because it's been closed for a while now because of social distancing. I also have not gotten to play in my dojo, and because of that, my joints are probably pretty weak, and I'm going to cry like a little girl as soon as somebody puts a lock on me. But anyway, into the mind of the Rons, what kind of a facility were you at when you approached this young couple?
Oh, it was
like a retail store.
It was a supermarket.
Don't say the name. Oh, supermarket. Okay. Supermarket. You're walking by. They're minding their own business, but yet you decide that for some reason you need to interact with these people. Why did you feel the need to interact with them?
I was just trying to be friendly. They were looking for something, right? And I thought I could help out. That's all.
Okay.
It was one of those things where I'm like, oh, maybe I can help you.
But they didn't ask for your help.
No, they didn't.
They didn't say, hey, elderly gentleman, we're looking for something.
Oh, no.
By the way, you look like you're probably a black belt. Would you happen to know where the ketchup aisle is? Nothing like that happened. You were just walking by. Now, here's what I don't understand, right? If you're walking by somebody, how do you have time to ascertain whether they need something or not in the amount of time that you're walking by? Do you do like a slow stroll walk by them, or were you looking at something in the same aisle and you were spending a significant amount of time there while they were in there?
So what you're really asking is, do I stalk people? That's exactly what it sounds like.
Is that what I'm asking? Now, is that what I'm asking? Let's be fair. Is that what I'm asking? I'm just asking how I'm thinking about how I walk through the grocery store. I'm going through fast. I mean, because I hate grocery store in the first place. So I don't have time to hear what conversations people are having or anything like that. So I just wondered how you did it.
I usually meander through. I'll sidetrack real quick here. When I ask Carrie, whenever we go, once again, I love my life. When we go into a store, I ask, do you want me to come in? Or do you want me to wait in the car? She'll go, no, you can come in. I said, you know what's going to happen. She goes, yes, I know. But it may not. And what usually happens is I know a lot of people in this community. So we'll be walking through the store, and I'll spot somebody that I know, and I'll say, hey. And next thing you know, what should have taken just grab a bag of chips per se and to run out turns into a 20, 30-minute conversation just standing in the aisle. And I'll like, okay, we'll say our goodbyes, and I'll walk maybe half an aisle over on, and I'll see somebody again I know, or they know me, and we'll sit there and talk. So I meander through, and that happens more times than you would think.
So at this point in time, because you didn't know these people or you didn't see anybody that you knew that you could have a conversation with, you just interrupted this young group, these two young people.
I thought I could help. That's all. My intention is that pure.
My intention was just to help. It was just to help these two poor wandering young people.
Yeah.
Now, from their perspective, and I don't know that you would know this because clearly you've been like this your whole life. From their perspective, let's put yourself in their shoes. What do you think that they were thinking when you approached them?
Well, I didn't approach him. I was just off to the side going.
Oh, sure. I mean, I'm sure you're not like up in their face. You're practicing social distancing, I'm sure, but sure. What do you think they thought when you just?
Oh, he's just trying to help us. That's all. He's trying to help us. I have gone into stores where I am actually, believe it or not, afraid to approach people. I really am, to a point. I will see an employee walk by and I will not approach them when I need help. So one of the things I thought I could overcome is that social awkward distancing before it was actually required in society, to step up and ask for help. A lot of us in society, introverts, don't like to ask for help when they need it. They'd rather suffer. And I thought, I don't want to suffer anymore. I want to ask for help.
Yeah, that's what I do. I don't ask for help.
And
I will look all over the whole store twice before I ask for any help.
And you see an employee walk by, and you know that they can help you, right? And you don't ask, so you wind up suffering or not getting what you want. So I thought, this year, step out of my shell. If I see something, I'm just going to ask for help.
Wait, so you have a shell?
Yes, I'm a hero and a half shell. Turtle power.
That's interesting. I won't ask people for help if they're walking because I assume they already have a mission that they have to go do. So I definitely won't stop them. Now, if you're just standing there, in a section,
I completely understand that too. However, their mission and my mission kind of, if they're in a store, their mission is to be customer service orientated.
Yes, right? I know. I always feel like I feel bad, but you know what else makes me feel bad is if I ask them, if I finally break down and I ask them for help, then they want to walk me to that section. And I'm like, you can just tell me where it is. You don't have to take time out from what you're doing. And I understand that a lot of stores tell them, hey, don't just tell somebody where it is. Take them to it so that you know that they find it. I understand that concept. We had that same concept when I worked in the hospital. Like if people looked like they were confused on where they were, we didn't tell them where to go. We would just be like, no, just come with me. I'll show you where it is. I'll show you where this department is or whatever. Or we'd find a volunteer to do it or whatever. I understand that that's probably a store policy. It's just for me, I'm like, no, you don't have to take me over there. It's fine. You can just tell me where it is. Or it's worse if they take you there, which is the same spot that you were at, but they can't find it either. And you're like, well, you guys probably just don't have it. That's why it's not here. So I feel like I've wasted their time. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, from the point of view, let me put myself in the shoes of these folks, though, that you helped.
Okay.
In two different perspectives. Here's the positive perspective. I'm like, oh, hey, this guy's really helping us out. That's pretty nice of him. Thank you, sir, for helping us out. You did make a little awkward comment about me being married to my sister. Clearly, we are fraternal twins. I mean, we're both redheads and we look exactly alike, but that's okay.
They didn't look anything alike.
That's okay. We both have, I understand. You're right. They don't look alike. Okay. So they go off, they find their thing. Here's the opposite reaction. These two people you just interrupted and they're like, this motherfucker's been listening to our conversation. Who the fuck is this guy listening to our conversation? Thanks, guy. Yeah, I think we got it. And thanks for saying that I might be married to my sister. What a fucking moron. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that's what they said. They're probably nice people. I'm just saying there's a couple ways that people will think about it. Everybody doesn't think like the Beaveman does, so people shouldn't take offense. The majority of people are probably fairly nice and don't think like I do. I would be saying, though, and this is, you know why this is a problem, Ronz? Do you know why this is the problem? You're not the problem. Let me just say that. You're a good caring person. You honestly actually kind of care about people. You're trying to interact in society like a normal person. And honestly, if more people interacted in society like you do, it would probably be a more friendly society and people wouldn't be so uptight with sticks up their asses. Can I just say that?
Okay. I like that.
The reason that I am like this is because my father was 10 times worse than you. Now, he didn't say awkward things, but he had a conversation with everybody. So everybody knew my father, and if they didn't know him, they were about to. So you could go to a restaurant. You could go to a restaurant, a nice little diner or whatever, be having lunch with your father, like me and my brother would be having lunch with my dad, and there could be a table of people sitting right next to us having a conversation that did not include him whatsoever. But the minute they touched on a topic that he knew anything about, or even if he didn't, he would interrupt their conversation and start talking with him. Now, people would try to ignore it. I will give them this. Sometimes people will be like, yeah, okay, make say a couple words. But he would pull them in, and eventually they're having a full-on conversation with my father and the people that they were already having a conversation with and enjoying the conversation, which is insane to me. So because of that,
we know people like that.
I have become an extreme introvert because it all embarrasses me, and I have no desire to include people that I don't know in my life. Or maybe even people I do know in my life. I don't know. It's a failing on my part, which makes you wonder why I even do the job that I do, which makes me have to talk to people. I can't get around it. I have to, obviously. It's my job. You know how I actually enjoy my job, other than the fact that I do enjoy helping people. But in my opinion, my job is like being a detective, and that's how I approach it, and that's what I kind of like about it.
Okay.
Trying to solve a mystery of what's going on here. What is it that's actually going on without the coolness of the espionage or the crime or whatever.
Understood. It's one of the things that I was raised, and I grew up with just the opposite. I grew up with a lot of negativity, and I grew up with people ignoring people. Right? When you grow up in an industrial town, we'll say, there is this dog eat dog attitude. And I will make no bones about it. I got bullied a lot, and people aren't too friendly. In fact, in today's society, you can always spot the people who are actually false and being bullied. Right? And it just rips me apart when no one is willing to stop being a bully, stop being false, and not willing to help out their fellow men. Now, I'm not saying you can't be cutthroat. It's in a business world, but for the average person, don't be a dick. Right? If you see somebody struggling, go out there and help them. Right? Yeah, I'm socially awkward when it comes to that. I completely admit that. And yeah, I probably say some things that I shouldn't have, or when I start a conversation with people, I should going, oh, that was awkward. All right, I make my mistakes. I really do. Mm-hmm. However, knowing that I'm really genuinely trying to be a better person, right, and help somebody, okay, maybe there should be some sort of leeway, some latitude there, right? But I've also said on the other end of the spectrum some really awkward shit that would make me think, holy shit, this guy needs help. Where's the security officer?
But you're still making the attempt, so that's the important thing. Yeah. You could just be giving up. So what was the other interaction you had that gave you pause? So that's not a negative interaction that you had. It's pretty positive. It's just funny.
Yeah. The other thing is when I went to Wally World this week, and the minute I walked in the store, there is my sister. A big shout out for her, Nikki. And we bumped elbows. I mean, that's all you can do. And we did our shopping, Terry and I. We let her go. We did our shopping. And as we're getting in line, the lines are actually trying to merge into one line. And you realize that they're two separate lines. However, in this line, there's in all our lines, supposedly, there's this person in front of us. Well, this is what the person was doing. Right? They had a runner. So the woman in front of us was holding the place in line, so she didn't have to wait that long. And the guy, her mate, whatever, was running, grabbing stuff back and forth. And they basically cut in line in front of us. And I'm like, oh, now, two ways I could have handled this. And I handled it the latter way, which was be quiet, don't say anything. It's just a 2-minute checkout. They'll be gone. You'll never have to deal with this bullshit again. Right? Or I could have said, hey, why are you still getting stuff and why are you still in line? You cut me off. Get behind. Get your 6 feet away from me and get behind me. And I thought, I will not be that person. I will just let them get on with their day. Because all the shit that's been going down with the social distancing, people freaking out. By the way, they caught that guy that wiped his face on a store employee that said, you should be wearing a mask if you're going to be in the store.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that line? Did you see that report?
No, but I did see the one that you were talking about where the two people came back and unfortunately killed that security guard at the dollar store or whatever. That was horrible. And
It was.
Thoughts and prayers out to that family. That's ridiculous. There's no reason that should have happened. He was doing his job, protecting everyone else by protecting everybody else's health, and some fucktards had to go and take his life for no fucking reason. That's bullshit.
I totally agree with that. And the one thing is, I wasn't going to be that guy. Now, I know I say socially awkward things. I know that when I open my mouth, I could possibly start a fight, but that's my own volition. I could. I know that. Right?
Do you think that you really would, though? Because you're not really doing. Don't you think that the people who are on the receiving end of the socially awkward things you say don't automatically jump to violence? They're just automatically like, that was kind of a bizarre thing to say. But because your demeanor is the way it is, they realize that you're not being a dick. You're just being. You might actually just be asking a question about how someone is or how they are or what they're doing or how, et cetera, et cetera. Like just I think that your mannerism is just inquisitive, and I don't think that people take offense to it because it's one big thing. Your body language is different. You know what I mean? If you said something sardonic, and you look like a total prick, then I think that they probably would take it differently.
What does a total prick look like these days?
Oh, like me, I guess.
I think because of the way I look with the gray hair that I have now, and I'm kind of balding here. They think, he's just off his meds. Someone left out of the nursing home. Shouldn't he be in a wheelchair? Shouldn't he have a mask? Where's his oxygen tank and everything? And I'm like, no, I'm not like that. I act like a 20-year-old. My wife says, you have all this energy. You act like a 20-year-old. You're never going to slow down. So when I'm out in public, I can do all these things. But, when you approach people, they're like, oh, look, he's grabbing a bag of chips and he doesn't know what he wants. Oh, that's so nice. Can he have that much sodium in his diet? So they kind
have you thought about just embracing a look though, to make it more interesting for yourself?
I have.
Maybe wearing like house slippers all the time, or kind of like Grandpa Simpson, instead of wearing regular shoes, and maybe either that or get like the Velcro shoes. So it looks like it's really easy for you to dress yourself, or just do something subtle like wear your pants backwards with like a drawstring on the backside. What we should do, because I don't want you to try to be awkward. I've said that because if you try to be awkward, I don't think you're going to have much success with it. I think it would be much more interesting if we just talked about some additions to the wardrobe, and then we slap a camera on you and just let it go and let it fly.
Well, one of the things that I haven't had a haircut in almost 7 weeks, right? And I looked at my hair and my eyebrows, and everything looks like that crazy look. I mean, crazy old man look. And when I go out in public, unless I'm really groomed up, right, and I take care of myself, and I shower every day or thereabouts, and my hair's all over the place. I'm not shaved, and my clothes look like I have been through hell and back. I get a wide berth in the aisle that people don't want to mess with me. They don't want to talk with me. They don't want to interact with me. And if I approach them, they're like, oh, okay. Once again, there's that medication that he should be on. And I've actually pointed out to Carrie. I don't want to say the word threaten here, but I pointed out to Carrie if she's not nice, I will stammer my walk and start to stammer my speech. And she's like, what? She'll like, if you don't.
So did you say anything to this entitled person that was in the lane before you, in front of you?
No.
You just let it go.
I had to let it go because it's not worth it. After I heard about the guy, poor guy, rest his soul, getting shot over something so stupid, right? It's not worth it to take a bullet or a bag of fucking chips. I mean, unless they're really good chips. And I am such an ass sometimes. One of the things I can do is I like to mimic people. And I did this to Carrie one time. I had these, do you know what birth control glasses are?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're in
the
the
glasses that they issue to you when you're in basic training, essentially. I don't know if they're probably really nice now. They probably just give them laser eye surgery now.
Oh, oh. Anyway, I got a pair of tinted ones because I worked on the flight line, so I had these
Sure.
really.
Yeah, the silver ones with the knife blade.
No,
Those are
no,
rare. Different.
they
Oh, they were
were
just the regular birth controls that were tinted.
with really dark lenses.
Oh,
So they were really.
we had the flight ones, the nice silver ones when we were on the flight line. We could order.
But I worked around a lot of heavy equipment, so if these kind of things fell, they were almost impact resistant. Anyway, I would I was watching how, and this is once again being awkward, how blind people interact. Right? And so I would put on my sunglasses while we were out there in public, and I would slowly put my hand on Carrie's shoulder. Right now, if you notice that, that's how some of the vision impaired people walk. They either grab the elbow or they put their hand on the shoulder so they can feel which way you're going to move. And they walk about 2 steps, maybe a step behind you. And I started doing that with Carrie, and all of a sudden she couldn't understand why the aisles were clearing out for her so she could walk through. And she turned around and she said, "Oh, good God, would you stop that?" And I'm like, okay. And she wanted to do some shopping. And I said, you know what, I'll meet you over at the meat counter, right? Or the meat section at this local store. So I'm sitting there and I have my sunglasses on. And I'm just standing there and she goes, Ron. And I turn around, Carrie, is that you? And she goes, I'm over here. What is it that you wanted to leave a blind guy at the meat counter and walk away? What is your deal? And it was something like that. And everybody kind of looked at her like, oh, you were just the worst person in the world. And I'm like, he's not really blind. Yeah, you would tell people that so they would go to your side. Or something like that. And I did it once when we were in a little deli place getting something to eat. And I'm like, he goes, do you want anything from the menu? I was like, you know, I can't read that. It's like, what? You know, I can't see that. I'm wearing the sunglasses. It doesn't dawn on her.
The guy's like, why are you looking at where you would look at it though? Then
And then she turns around, hands me a menu. I'm like, this isn't even bro. What the hell are you trying to do to me? Right? I can't read this. And this guy's like looking at her in like, you are just once again the worst person in the world. And says, oh, would you quit it? And I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I'm not blind. I should be able to, or I'm not vision impaired. I should be able to read this menu. And the guy says, I thought you were really blind the way you were acting.
You're like, no, I'm just a dick.
Yes, I am. I was
just an asshole. Just an asshole.
Or when I think that I will ask Carrie a question and rhetorically she'll ask, what do you mean by that? I'm like, okay, this is what I mean. And I'll go, while we're at the store, instead of making several trips around the city, do you want to grab something here, like, yogurt or whatever? She goes, a yogurt? What type of yogurt? And in which case, I'm like, once again, you know that answer. I don't, but I've offered it, and you go, what type of yogurt? So I'm going to go into my old man mode, like, back in the day when
there's only vanilla.
Yogurt, right? Vanilla. We're like, I don't know what type of yogurt you want. But, when I was a kid, we didn't have yogurt. We just had sour milk, and we just put blueberries in it. Well, they weren't really blueberries. They were more rocks, but they were colored blue, and you were lucky if you didn't chip your teeth on a rock. But that was cool. And afterwards, when you had that rock, you had a prize, and you could throw it at people. And that was really cool, but you didn't want to throw it at people too much because, if they got blood, right, and you were playing vampire games, they were a victim, and you didn't want to turn them into a victim or a vampire because they were jerks, because you didn't want a jerk vampire floating around. And she would go, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, do you know what type of yogurt you like? Yeah. Do you know what type of yogurt you want? Yeah. So why would you ask a rhetorical question or a question that I don't know an answer to, that only you know an answer to? Goes,
I think that's part of being a woman. That's part of being a woman. They ask these goofy questions. my wife asks questions all the time about making decisions. I'm like, can't you just make a decision? If I wasn't here, wouldn't you just make that decision on your own? Why do I have to make every decision? I don't want to make every decision. That it just drives you up a fucking wall. It's clearly, yeah. I'll give you an example of how goofy they will ask you just the stupidest fucking questions. Yesterday, my son and my wife decided that they were going to switch garage bays, right? So they're going to switch garage bays. They both have the garage door opener to their respective bay. Fine, whatever. So she comes in after they switched their bays, and I had the garage door opener for the one bay up on the counter that she had in hers. And she says, well, where's the one for the other bay, the bay that he had? And I said, well, he wasn't using one. He was actually getting out and using the keypad. And she said, oh, well, then where's the other opener? And she had been in the other bay before that too, so she would have known where the other opener was. I had not used either bay. So I said to her, I don't know where the other opener is because I don't use that garage bay. I've never had it. Why would I know where it is? But yet she kept asking me where it is. And I said, why would I know where it is? I never had it. And she's like, well, does he have it? I said, no, I just told you he hasn't been using it. He's been using the keypad. But she kept asking me where it was. I'm like, how would I know where it is if I never had it? I didn't ever personally have that controller, so why would I know where it is?
You know, and I feel you. I really do. I understand that because I ask questions like that. So I said, hey, where's this item? What do we want to do with this item or whatever? And it's like, I don't know. What do you want to do? I said, I've already claimed and stated I don't know what to do or I don't have a clue or a plan. Right? Now, I will come up with a plan, a clue on the fly, but I still don't know where it is. So if I already said I don't know where it is, why is that going to change 5 seconds from now? Right. Now, I understand jarring your memory might help, but, you know, in the meantime, it's not helping that.
No.
You're asking me if I know where it's at, and I've already stated I don't know where it's at. Just tell me you don't know where it's at, and I can move on versus standing there for 5 minutes trying to explain my position when there is nothing for me to stand on.
And then before the days of the social distancing lockdown, when we could actually go to dinner, when everybody wants to go to dinner, and we don't go to dinner very often because I prefer to eat at home, and most places you eat at, I do not think are very good. But there's some things that we can't make. And so sometimes the kids or wife or whatever says, "Hey, we want to go to dinner." Fine. Where do you want to go?
Rather than trying to sneak out and get noodles or pizza behind your back. I completely understand that.
Then you ask them, well, where do you want to go? And they say, I don't know. Okay, you want to go to dinner, but then you want to tell me you don't know. And they'll ask, well, where do you want to go? Now, you have a couple options. You can either say, well, it wasn't my idea to fucking go anywhere in the first place. I'm okay with eating here, which they've already determined that they don't want to do. So what I've done is I've realized that I can do one of two things. Either I can just tell them this is where we're going, and if they don't fucking like it too fucking bad, at which point in time I say, well, if you don't like my suggestion, why didn't you tell me where you wanted me to go when I asked you in the first place? So if you've asked me to make the decision, you're stuck with whatever my decision is. If you don't like it, too fucking bad. The other thing that you can do is you can actually say, you can kind of circumvent the whole thing and say, hey, I'm taking you to your favorite restaurant today. And then they'll say, oh, you mean this place? And then you're like, oh, okay, yep, that's where we're going. Because fuck, you don't know. That's the only way you can get them to decide on where they want to go.
No, I completely understand. It's like, I've already stated, I don't know the answer. However, when I throw it up to you, it's like, tell me where you want to go because I don't like and I don't like I don't know either. All right, I'll decide. No, I don't want to go there. That's the other thing I don't like is when you go, okay, I'll make a suggestion and I'll comply. Let's do this. I don't like that. I'm like, then why did you not have an idea? Turn around, throw it back in my face so I have to come up with something and then not like that idea. You had your choice. Now it's my choice, right? I'm very flexible when it comes to choices, right? As long as you don't mind where we're going to go eat, or I don't mind, it's cool.
Yeah, if they're not making a decision and they don't like what decisions I've said, then generally I say, well, I guess we're not going anywhere. I'm fine with eating here. I'll eat whatever in the refrigerator. It doesn't matter to me. Hell, I don't even have to eat. Fine with me. Don't care.
Well, you and I are ex-military. The thing is, dinner is dinner, or I should say, a meal is a meal when you get it, plain and simple.
Right.
That's the way we were trained. You will eat when you get a chance to eat, not before then, not after, unless you bring something to eat with you. So I can go without. I really can. That's the way I was trained. I mean, 30 years out of the military, you never forget that kind of mentality, that mode. You really can slip right back into it if you have to.
No, I mean, when you've eaten stuff that was canned, and during Vietnam and you're eating it in the 90s, you tend to not really care that much. I like to use that. I like to paraphrase that phrase, that thing that the guy said in the first Rambo movie. Like, yeah, I've eaten things that would make a goat puke, so I don't really care. I'll eat anything. That's fine. I try not to do that anymore, but let's just say a meal is a meal. If you get to eat, that's great. If you don't, well, I guess you wait until the next time. Eventually, you will get to eat, most likely.
Of course.
True.
And what puts it in perspective as well is when I'm downtown with Terry and the weather's good, you see the homeless going through the trash and eating it, right? And honestly, my heart goes out to them. It really does. However, I can wait to eat a decent meal until I get home or whatever you want to give me. I don't care, right? I'm not very picky. And if these guys can eat whenever, whatever, I should be at least that much more understanding that if you want to leave the decision up to me, fine, we'll go, we'll have something decent. If I'm going to leave it up to you, I don't care where I eat. As long as we've got the monetary funds for it, I'm good with that. I'm not really a big restaurant eater. I don't mind going to restaurants. It's just that, I'm going to eat whatever you want to give me.
Right.
So, but I needed an answer. I don't need this. I don't like that. My brother did that to me once. He would come over, and he was in college, and he would say, "Hey, what do you got to eat?" And I would rattle off this entire sequence of what he could have. He's like, I'm not really interested. No thanks. So I finally caught on to what he was doing, and I said, he called me back, and I said one day, and he's like, "Hey, what do you got to eat? I'm kind of hungry." And I'm like, "Hey, I'm not gonna fucking tell you." It's like, what? I'm not gonna fucking tell you. If you're hungry, you're gonna come over. You're gonna have what I give you. If not, so what? But I'm hungry. Yeah, and you're gonna come over and eat. I'm not a fucking restaurant. Come over and eat, right? It's like, okay, that's the way it's got to be. That's one way to end that pickiness. It's like if they don't care, start giving them stuff that you like that they won't like.
Right. Right. You don't fucking like it, you don't have to fucking eat it. That's all there is to it. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I do that when I cook. I cook mainly for RJ and Carrie. Of course, we all know that. But if they don't like it, and rarely do they not like something. It's one of those things. They like everything I cook. But if they don't like something, I'm like, that means just more for me. In fact, maybe that's why I made it that way. Because I was just that much more hungrier than everybody else. So I figured, I know how to cook. I'm going to cook.
Right. Well, I just happened to be lucky because, and she wasn't like this when I married her, but she went through this renaissance of being a very good cook. And so everything my wife makes, I like. And that's why I would prefer not to even go anywhere. And I'm a good cook too. I don't cook a lot. I don't have like this wide variety of things I cook, but the stuff I cook is pretty good. So that's why I think my children have been pretty much broken of wanting to go to restaurants too, because they like eating at home. They like what we make. But, it wasn't always like that. But again, it's the same thing. It's not like I'm forcing my children to eat liver and onions. I won't force my children to eat something I don't fucking want to eat. And so that we just don't have it on that menu. So If they don't like it, they're not going to eat. That's all there is to it. But we generally eat stuff that people are going to want to eat.
Yeah. Or one of the things I found out being a dad is if you want your kid to eat whatever, you get them in there to help you cook it. That way they have some input there. And I have always done that with our son. It's like if you want to eat, come out into the kitchen, right? Kind of help me out here. One of the things I've been making is cake box cookies a lot. You ever hear of this?
No.
Yeah, it's real simple. It's not healthy. I'll state it right there, but it's a great way to make cookies. You take an ordinary cake box mix, 15.25 or 18.25, really doesn't matter on the size. Just an ordinary cake box mix, whatever flavor. Add 2 eggs and either a third or a quarter cup of corn oil or cooking oil. Mix it all up, and now you've got cookie dough. And you just bake your cookies at 350 for 10 to 15 minutes. And boom, you have chocolate cookies, you have strawberry cookies, whatever your cake box mix is. Yeah, you can add chocolate chips. And I have gone through more cake boxes in a week. Right? Yeah, because I wanted to try lemon poppy seed. Now, of course, it didn't have any poppy seed, but I had poppy seeds forever, and just for cooking. And I said, okay, I'll make lemon poppy seeds, and Carrie can bring home some white vanilla chips, if that's a thing. And I said, what am I supposed to do? Please, can you add them in there? I'm like, okay. So I make those, and these cookies go fast. Like I baked them yesterday, and then I'm almost down to half a plate.
Oh wow!
And yeah,
you guys are gonna be like 100. You guys are gonna gain like 100 pounds.
No, well, we're gonna gain the quarantine 15, as they call it.
Is that what it is now?
Yeah. Well, I'm also trying to get out too, so I'm gonna get out here in a bit. Thing is, I cook a lot of things from scratch. I really do. Like Carrie would like a chicken stew. I cook everything from scratch most of the time. RJ like hamburger helper out of a box. That's him.
Well, you've heard it, folks. These have been some really good tips on how to make some really healthy social distancing, home isolation meals with the Ronz. Making cookies out of a cake box. Sounds delicious. Sounds great. Sounds really healthy for you. Sounds like everybody's going to be nice, lean, and fit by the time the stay-at-home order is over. Because here in Michigan, it's been extended till what, the 28th?
Yeah, I'm just waiting. Sorry, I can't formulate my words. What's your take on that? I mean, you're in the medical profession. Every time I speak to you or look at you through Skype, I'm really concerned that you are going to be infected. I mean, I respect you in your field, your family, the Swan, of course, is in the medical field. I am really concerned about you, brother.
Well, I don't know. My question on that is, do people really want to know the answer to that question? For example, I have patients that come in, you finish their visit, they've done their routine visit for chronic medical conditions, et cetera. I've had a few patients that have asked me, so what do you think about this whole coronavirus thing? You haven't seen anybody here with that, have you? I'm like, I just saw 2 people today with it. And people are like, what? I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, like, do you think it's not out there? I'm like, we're diagnosing people every couple of days with it. Of course, I'm exposed to it all the time. I'm taking my precautions. I'm washing my hands several times in one visit with people. I'm wearing a mask my entire shift. I wear goggles too, and I wear a lab coat over me. And then I don't wear the lab coat home. And as soon as I get home, I take my clothes off and take a shower. I don't know. I still feel like people have this really warped version of what things are going on out there. I think it's interesting that there's people in the government, Dr. Anthony Fauci and a couple of the other top medical people on the coronavirus task force have self-quarantined themselves because they came in contact with someone who was a possible infection. I'm like, if I did that, I'd never go to work. I mean, we come in contact with people with it almost every day that we work. And that's the people that we highly suspect have it, and then they come back tested positive for it. There's plenty of people that have these very subtle, they keep coming out with all these subtle symptoms. They're like, what the fuck? What is that symptom? So pretty much you could have any symptom under the sun now and possibly have coronavirus, because now it's the symptom list is super long. I mean, it's down to now this rash on the toes. Never would have crossed my mind that was a symptom of coronavirus. So
Is it really a rash on your toes?
yeah, it's actually called COVID toes. You can look it up. They have there's a similar rash that they can get on their fingers also. They've shown a lot of people that have that or have tested positive for the coronavirus but don't have any symptoms other than the rash. And I had a person that came in with this really bizarre rash on the top of their toes, and I couldn't figure out what the fuck it was. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to treat it. And then like 2 days later, you get this email about they've been seeing this rash with the coronavirus. I'm like, well, I'm sure that's what that lady had. But she had no other symptoms. That's the only symptoms she had.
Wow, so that little itch I have on my elbow, for whatever reason, I could have the COVID.
Yeah, God, who knows? Right now, and I've had patients ask me that too. They're like, well, are there different symptoms? Like, I'm like, at this point, any symptom you have that is different from something that it is different from your normal function in life, as far as we know, could be a symptom. Because by God, we just keep getting lists of symptoms.
So to the hypochondriacs of the world, they're going to die. Oh my Lord. They're going to sneeze on it and they're going to have it.
Yeah. All right, well, good. Well, I think that we've covered sort of some stuff. It's mostly just been a nice little conversation between the Ronz and I, with a plug for Carrie's Scars and Stripes coffee. And now, we just got to get the Ronz out there. Ronz has got to get out there more. Keep being him, keep being himself.
We have to define that when we talk about Carrie on your end, it is not my wife.
Yeah, well, yeah, we could define that. Carrie's Scars and Stripes coffee does not have anything to do with the Ronz. That is not his wife. That is that is a friend of the show whose coffee we are plugging.
And I've noticed that a lot of people have a wife or an ex-spouse named Carrie. So whenever I hear, "Hey, Carrie," I'll like turn around. I'm like, "Why are you seeing my wife? Is she trying to tell me that something I don't know? You know, if you're going to leave me, please let me know. Give me a couple of hundred. Actually, just give me $100 and let me have my shoes so I can leave. But I will make dinner before I leave, though. I will do that.
That's awfully thoughtful of you. All right, well, I guess we're going to wrap it up. This has been another great episode of the SlapTail Squad. Saying hi to all of our members of the SlapTail Nation out there. Hope you're staying happy and healthy. And if you're getting depressed at all, make sure you talk with someone, because I think that the biggest risk during this whole period of time in history of the world, that the biggest problem that people are going to have is an increase in anxiety, depression, and fucking anger. So
I agree.
Do something about that.
What are our stats this week?
You want some stats? I'm trying to wrap it up, but the Ronz wants to hear his stats this week. Our stats for the past 7 days have been 284 plays. For the past 30 days, statistics are over 1,025 plays, which is really good. I thank you to all of our listeners out there. Of course, we'd like over 10,000 plays a day, but hey, we'll get there someday. And the top cities in America and or the world for this week, top countries, of course, the United States. Country number 2 is Ireland, and country number 3, coming in with one play in the past 30 days, is Pakistan. Top cities for this week, or this month, rather, are Clifton, United States, which I guess is in New Jersey. I don't know what's going on there. Portage, Michigan, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Mountain View. Those are the top 4 cities. Mountain View again for the top 30 days. So, podcasting. Spread the word. Get out there. Listen to your local podcasters. Welcome to listen to your national podcasters. I'll mention a couple of my favorites. Of course, the last podcast on the left being my most favorite podcast. So I'm saying shout out to those guys, to Marcus, Ben, and Henry. You guys always do a great job. And, of course, to the wonderful and awesome, sardonic and sarcastic, and sometimes slightly depressing Mark Maron with his podcast, WTF, which, of course, is What the Fuck. So go out there and listen to their podcast as well. And, of course, listen to ours. Visit our website at slaptailnation.com. Send us an email at slaptailsquad@gmail.com so that Ronz has plenty to do. And, again, Ronz, thank you for all of your hard work on the podcast and all of our social networking.
Shout out to Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes, and hopefully they'll be on our show eventually. We want them out there, as well as Jack Black, and and everybody behind the scenes.
Perfect.
So, yeah. And Weird Al. I definitely want Weird Al.
Oh, we got to say for Weird Al also. All right. And that's it from the SlapTail Squad. Adios, mooch fuckos.
Adios.